number one, from all the decisions that this president has made, it's been very insulting to me and to constituencies that I represent, and African Americans in particular. And it seems to me that, what he's doing is running a reality TV show. And I don't want to be a part of his TV show. You heard the disparaging remarks he said about countries like Haiti and Africa, and the overall policy seeming to not want, he wants to change immigration, legal immigration policy that will prevent people from color coming in. So he does not respect me. I cannot give him, therefore, respect by sitting there.
That Congressman Meeks, the Democrat from New York, explaining why he is one of about a dozen Democrats who will not be in attendance tonight. They're boycotting. And tonight's theme, a safe, strong, and proud America. Two of the major issues will address the economy and immigration. Now, we wanted to look at how the American people feel about the way the president is handling specific issues. He is underwater when it comes to pretty much every issue. That, according to a new CBS poll that came out, 46% approve of his handling of the economy, but 49% do not. About 38% approve of his tax policy. Again, more than half don't. When it comes to immigration, the numbers get even worse as it relates to the president. A third like his approach, 61 do not. And when it comes to terrorism, North Korea, again, more negative than positive. And speaking of North Korea, sources are saying that the president will have some, their words, eye-opening remarks on that country. We will find out soon enough. Let's bring in our panel. Two members also of the New York delegation, like the aforementioned Mr. Meeks, Republican, New York Congressman Bob Turner, and on the other side of the table and aisle, former Democratic New York Congressman Tim Bishop. Guys, thank you very much. Let me first start with you, Tim, in that your old colleague said, thanks but no thanks, I'm not going. About a dozen others are taking that approach. You think that's a mistake?
I'm not sure it's a mistake. I think it's up to each member to make a judgment that they themselves are comfortable with and what they think their constituents.
You would have gone.
I would have gone. Yeah, and as you can see, the vast majority of members are going to be there. But I don't disagree with, and I do respect members who are acting on their conscience to choose not to go. I mean, they're doing it in a way that's civil, and so I think that that's their choice to make.
You know, Bob, some of the words that I keep hearing when people describe the state of the country, some said divided, some said anxious, some say polarized, even distrustful. Other people saying about the economy, you know what, I'll leave that stuff here to you guys talking about on TV or whatever, but market's doing good and the economy's doing good. I don't care who gets the credit, it's better good than bad. How do you describe where we are right now after the last year that's felt, frankly, I think for all of us, like a decade?
Well, there was certainly enough turmoil and the unnecessary turmoil, I might add, in the last year. But and with Mr. Trump, we have an issue of style and substance. I think his style, as many will point out, is can be very divisive and difficult and upsetting and sometimes wrong-headed. Yet the substance of what he's done in deregulation and the tax plan and even what he had proposed on the medical are all pretty solid. And I think that's working.
I have a strong sense you're going to disagree in terms of his policy over the year, but more than that, is it just style and substance, or is it more than the style? And I ask that because, guys, I was looking back in the past year. Look at the institutions that we never really debate in this country as to how we view them. He said about the FBI that it's in tatters, okay? He said about the CIA, at one point he compared them to Nazis. In talking about the electoral system, it was rigged. Media, fake news. You guys know that by heart. The judiciary branch, he called them haters, and one judge in particular, a Mexican, because his forefathers came from Mexico. And about the Justice Department, the deep state. To me, and sometimes I get into a bubble here, but I don't care if you're a Democrat, Green Party, Republican, whatever party yours, there's a concern,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, that litany you just recited is simply indefensible. But more than being indefensible, what I worry about are...
But is that just a style thing, or is
No,
that a
I think
substance
it's both style and substance, and here's where the substance comes in. What he is denigrating are the fundamental institutions of a free society. A free press is one of the pillars of a free society. An independent judiciary is one of the pillars of a free society. And so when he is constantly denigrating institutions of that type and the people who populate those institutions, it gives rise to a skepticism that isn't healthy, that doesn't move us forward as a country, and that doesn't protect our democracy. So yes, it's a stylistic issue that I think any reasonable person should be taking issue with and would find indefensible. I mean, tonight he's going to talk about bipartisanship. 72 hours ago, he was describing Chuck Schumer as, quote, crying Chuck. Now, is he crying Chuck, or is he a partner with whom the president is willing to sit down and try to find common ground and try to hash out a compromise? So he often, in my opinion, is his own worst enemy. He's often creating conflict where it's unnecessary and certainly unhelpful. So that's both stylistic, but I also think it's substantive.
You know, Bob, you came, before you came to Washington, you had to try and figure out, when it came to programming, what people wanted and stuff. He promised, as a candidate, he was going to disrupt Washington. I think he's delivered on that promise. But do you believe there's a cost associated, or is he Teflon in a way that we've never seen? Is he graded on a curve, maybe, that if he delivers his speech literally, that he reads the prompter, right? And he's not going to, you know, have a soaring rhetoric, but as long as he can read the prompter, people are going to say, wow, he looks presidential. I remember a year ago to this day, that was the reaction I got. And I said to everybody, I go, I've been doing this for 20-something years. He read a prompter. It wasn't like, you know, JFK stirring the nation to action. Give me an idea here.
Well, many of his fellow Republicans would be very happy if he just read the prompter and didn't tweet and a whole series of the things.
Is he his own worst enemy?
Well, all the problems that have developed here, it's on his style.
But I just rattled off on what he said, right?
Yes.
Do you believe that at the end of the day, it goes in one ear out the other, or, and I take the approach, every nation, every presidency has had a moment of crisis. I'm not even talking self-induced. We're attacked as a nation. We have to deal with a terrorist incident, whatever. We need the president to rally the nation and to have faith in the presidency and the institutions that he's going to call upon to advance this country out of a dark window. I've never seen somebody rip apart every single institution that I could talk about. And I've talked about the legislative and the judicial branch here, and everybody basically in the executive branch other than himself. At some point, does that come with a real damage, or do you think people say, oh, it's just talk, it's just Trump?
Well, some things need to be fixed, and before they're going to be fixed, they're going to have to be opened up. I think his attacks on the DOJ, I think we will see shortly, and we ought to do this slowly and deliberately, that there is substance to it.
Well, we're going to talk about that one coming up next, because a member of that Intelligence Committee will be joining us, Jim Himes. And for those who know a little bit of the backstory, I'll give you much more on it. He'll be talking about the probe. He, again, sits on the Intelligence Committee, Jim Himes does, and he is livid with how this is being handled right now, especially one Devin Nunes and his memo that the president today said ought to be released, and we're learning it could come out as soon as tomorrow. We'll talk about that after this.